What radio? The music you want.
With your host, Keys Dan.
Spoken! RadioWhat.com.
What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me. Me? At your party? I'm so excited. I get to be with people at their best times. Yes. Weddings and corporate events and parties. Oh, just little 5-year-old birthday parties. I learned how to make balloon animals so I could play at little birthday parties. And I entertain all the kids, and usually the parents are in a square or in a rectangle around the perimeter, making sure that everything is going good. This way they can converse and chit-chat while I take care of the kids in the dance floor, having some fun. Yeah, party with the people. I've been doing a lot of weddings, too. I have a wedding coming up on Saturday. I'm stoked about that. Hey, coming up on the program, Elizabeth Lanning. Who's Elizabeth Lanning? Well, you're going to find out a little bit more about her in the next few minutes. I am excited to speak to her. I know a little bit about her. But I want to know a little more about her. So, yeah, we're talking to Elizabeth Lanning on the podcast. Hey, in this week's shows, I did have a show on Friday night, my regular Friday night gig at the Rab, but the Rab is closing up for this week. They have the virus scare, the COVID-19 virus scare, the novel COVID-19 coronavirus scare. Yeah. I hope they're not overreacting. I hope they're overreacting. I hope that's what it is. And this virus just goes away the way of the dodo, just like the other viruses have. And that's where we're at in this time capsule, in this part of space and time right now as we record this in March of 2020. All right. I think I've talked your ear off. Oh, and I do have that wedding on Saturday. Stoked about that. I did get a call from the bride, and she was a little concerned, but she says, I think we're going to go for it. Yeah. Put the family together. Have some fun. What are the chances? Stay healthy. All right. Let's pick it up a notch. Let's take it up. Let's pick up the pace. It's time to talk to Elizabeth Lanning. Find out more about Elizabeth Lanning. Calling Elizabeth Lanning now.
Hello?
Elizabeth Lanning, please.
That's me. How can I help you?
It's you. It's me, Keys Dan, with the What Makes You Famous podcast. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. How are you?
I like fabulous. That's a word that I use quite often, especially describing people such as yourself who have strived for fabulosity. Yes. Elizabeth Lanning, give the people a little idea of who you are.
So I am the Miss Virginia USA Ambassador for 2020. I'm also a nursing student in college. I work with Blue Ridge Community College trying to get that degree. And I really spend most of my free time volunteering with different homeless shelters and working with homeless veterans.
All right.
That's about all I have time for.
Elizabeth Lanning, that is the 10 poles of you. Who you are as a person is a lot of what you do. And I know that the homeless shelter, we could start there, because it seems like that's one of the biggest 10 poles, at least one that comes to the forefront. Whenever I follow you on your Instagram and your social media, I see that you really are community oriented. Where did that come from? Was that something that you learned from your parents? Had you done that in your earlier school life, or is that something that you've discovered a passion for at this juncture?
So that's actually a really good question. When I was growing up, my mother used to take in animals from bad homes, but we wouldn't take in dogs and cats. We take in exotics. We took in birds and lizards and things like that. And she always kind of taught me that no matter what we had, somebody always had less, and that you needed to always reach out your hand to help others. So from when I was a little girl, I've been going out in my community and helping out. I volunteer at like public events and things like that until I was, old enough to do some of the bigger things. And now with the volunteering at homeless shelters, that's really sparked a passion, because what I do is I work for helping homeless veterans to get the programs they need in place in order to get the jobs that they need to get back on their feet. And I just love that. My whole family is veterans. All of my cousins are currently in the military. I plan on going Army as soon as my degree is finished to be a nurse with them. So I've always had this huge passion for helping others and helping my community, because your community is only as strong as you make it. And this has really given me the opportunity to let that shine.
Oh, I believe that to be true. That there is a homeless situation that's going on. I'm here in Arkansas, and I know that they've kind of let the homeless people have at least a face, because a lot of times the homeless are shunned, they're put away, and you see people here in Arkansas where I'm at, and I know that you're in Virginia. In Arkansas, they let the people panhandle, which means people standing on the street corners asking for money, a handout, if you will. I know that it has to be embarrassing for them, but my first instinct, and I know it's not just me, but I can only speak for myself. My first instinct is why doesn't that person have a job? But do I stop? Do I take the time to ask what that person is all about? No, I pretty much stop, look, give a nice nod and a smile, and drive on. But I do talk to people here in the community that help the homeless, the Coho community. That, in fact, I've had a few of the people for the Conway City of Hope outreach here in Conway, Arkansas, and they do stop. There's one person that I talked to just recently does stop. How in depth do you get involved with the homeless? Do you see people on the corner? What's your first idea? What's your first thought?
So generally, when I see somebody who may be a homeless veteran and they're wearing the Army or they're wearing their dog tags and stuff, my first question is not usually why don't they have a job, or what did they go through that isn't allowing them to get a job? And not to exploit anybody, so I'm going to leave out names, but there's a man who is often on our streets and he works for food. And so in the wintertime, I didn't necessarily stop, and I didn't really give him money, but I turned around, I went to Walmart, I bought him gloves and non-perishable foods that he could just open and eat when he needed it and things like that. So I like to help them out in ways that aren't necessarily monetary, because you don't always know who everyone is and what their demons are, but I still want to be able to reach out and help them. And so oftentimes, if it's cold, I'll get them gloves, or if it's exceptionally hot, I'll get them a cold drink of water, or I'll go to Starbucks and get them a lemonade or something like that.
So, in particular, this one person, what's the general consensus when you do give a person some gloves? Are they appreciative, or because in the movies, and I got to relate to the movies because I don't have a lot of first world experience. You'll see people here's a sandwich. I don't want a sandwich. I wanted $1. What's the feedback?
I've had that in DC. Actually, I got somebody Subway and he threw the sandwich at me, which was a little intense. But with a lot of the community around here, they'll cry and they'll just be so grateful, and they'll thank you in every possible way they can. And it's really heartwarming to see that. And that's when you kind of realize just how in need some people in the community are, to the point where all you did was get a basic human decency. You went and spent $5 on gloves, and then they're crying because they needed them. And so that's the consensus of generally people I see in the smaller towns of Virginia. In Richmond, you do have to be a little more cautious. I am a girl. I'm in my 20s. I have to be really cautious sometimes. But usually, if you know what to look for, and you see people who truly are in need, and they'll always be so grateful for any help they can get.
Yeah, you're a girl in your 20s, a pretty girl. In fact, it is dangerous out there in the city. So being in Virginia, I'm guessing that's pretty close to DC, the nation's capital. Is there a big homeless problem? And I know that you specialize in not just a broader sense of the homeless, but in particular the veterans. And these are the ones we need to take care of. A lot of and then again, I have to relate to movies. People came back from the Nam or came back from the Middle East and couldn't reconstitute back into civilization, especially if they've done long tours. Who knows what horrors they've seen protecting our country and doing what they thought was right to protect our freedoms, and to reassimilate back into real life where they have to take care of themselves and possibly a family. Is it a lot of psychological issues that you're dealing with, or is it just they're not getting a break? What is the big problem that you find with why are they homeless?
So I think what I've definitely seen the most is PTSD or because of PTSD, drug addiction. And it's absolutely tragic to have to recognize that is truly an issue, especially we used to call it shell shock. Now we call it PTSD. It's been around as long as time. We just come up with different names for it every 100 years or so. I think in Northern Virginia into DC, a couple years back in the 70s or 80s, so I guess it's a bit back, they closed down a mental asylum called St. Elizabeth. And the majority of the population in that asylum were veterans. And they were just kind of turned out on the streets. The families didn't come and pick them up. So there is a lot of the psychological issues happening with a lot of those people who come out of St. Elizabeth. And sometimes you even have to just, they get a little rowdy and stuff. And so, you call the police and the police are really kind from what I found. And they'll always escort them to like homeless shelters or drive them places that maybe are a little too far to walk. But I feel like definitely the PTSD is the biggest issue in a lot of the homeless veterans. Some of them just got unlucky. They came back and their wife had drained their bank account and left them. And things like that start a cycle, and they can't always break free of that cycle just because it was so traumatic to having been to war and then to come home to nothing and things like that.
Oh, I could see that. They were having a paycheck. It might not have been a big paycheck, but it was a source of income. And they come back to no job, and you're saying possibly a spouse that has cleaned them out and has left town, skipped out on this fine people. And do you find that I guess the majority are men or women, or is it a combination of both? Because I've seen homeless people of both sexes and all races. What do you think that the demographic is most that you're able to be in contact with, and who are you helping?
So this is my favorite example, in men over 50 who are homeless in America, this is a whole America, 50% of them are veterans, which is really, really tragic because only about 8% of the population of that age was in service. And so to see literally over half of these people are homeless veterans, it's just really, really tragic. And it shows that it's really disproportionate to the population and really proves that there was a problem that maybe we're addressing now, but we didn't address it fast enough at the time because we didn't quite have all of the psychological understanding that we do now.
That is an incredibly high statistic, Elizabeth Lanning. I'm blown away, that many people are homeless. And is this, primarily in the nation's capital or in the surrounding areas, or is this nationwide, or is it worldwide?
That is nationwide, which is absolutely, tragic to me. I'm lucky my state, I've had the honor of getting in contact with one of our senators, Mark Warner, who just kind of explained to me what we're doing in Virginia now. And I've expressed interest in, hey, do you want to work together and we can come up with programs to help the homeless in rural areas? Because in big cities like Richmond and things like that, there are help centers. They're bigger. There's more people. There's more resources. But I live in a little town in Virginia. I live in Stanton. I live in the middle of nowhere. And it's true. And there's just not the financial help and the resources that we need to better help them to get back on their feet.
Oh, she's a small town girl. And so growing up let's back away from this a little bit and let's get to the beginnings of you. Where did Elizabeth Lanning start? And you say you started in a small town, grew up in a small town, born in a small town?
I was actually born in Northern Virginia, but I lived in Vienna growing up. So it's on like the top like 5 small towns in Virginia, but it's still a pretty big town. I mean, I had about maybe 400 people in my graduating class. So by all means, it was not super small, but it was a very tight knit community, and that really just sparked everything for me. I was like, oh my gosh, well, community is everything. If I know all 400 people's names in my graduating class, it can't be that big, you know?
Yeah, that's going to shape a young life. If your school is tight, the people in your school, you're community oriented. What kind of activities? You say you volunteered a little bit as a small young lass in school. What was your first memory of getting into the community? And was that something that your parents took you to, or is that something that your school teacher took you to?
So it was definitely my parents. I used to volunteer every single Memorial Day. We have an event. It's called Viva Vienna. It's like my town's big fair. And growing up, I'd go, and even when I wasn't old enough to, I don't know, maybe set up signs or talk to vendors and things like that, I'd work as like a crossing guard, just making sure people dismounted their bikes and stuff like that, which was super rewarding, even though I know a lot of my friends were off playing on the little fair rides and stuff that we had. I met a lot of really amazing people just through being willing to stop and like put aside wanting to play in order to make sure that everything got done so the whole community could enjoy like that.
The crossing guard in school is a position of responsibility, but also a position that can be ridiculed by the other kids, that you have to wear one of the reflective jackets while you were doing the crossing guard, the parking, the making sure that people. Yeah. And how did you feel when you were in that position of authority? Do you have a little badge on you as well?
No, I just usually wore the crossing guard vest, and I mean, I found that if you make fun of yourself before anyone else can make fun of you, it usually goes pretty well. So I'd be like, oh yes, I'm feeling fabulous today. Look at me in my big orange jacket, and everyone else would just kind of laugh along and be like, oh well, I guess if she thinks it's okay, it's okay.
And that's the beginnings of community service for you, Miss Elizabeth Lanning. So your mom and dad, I mean, what did you get specifically from your parents? What did your mom do, and what did your dad do for a living and as a person?
So my mom is a 5th grade teacher for gifted and talented kids.
Cool.
Which was always a really cool job. And she always explained to me that it's not always the income that you make from a job like that. You don't go into teaching for the money. You do it for the love of the youth and the, wanting the betterment of society and things like that. And of course, with that job, my dad did bring home the moneymaker on that. He works for the government. He just does project management with them. But he finds that pretty rewarding too, because he gets to work with a lot of the bigger corporations and things like that and make sure they're secure so that they don't have to worry about that side of their business and they can do what they need to do.
Well, it's good. It seems like your parents were stable. You had a good, stable life growing up. Parents that love you, parents that worked hard. A teacher, fantastic. And gifted, you said. Were you gifted?
Yes, I was in the Gifted Talented program growing up. I really loved it. The class sizes were so small. There were like 14 kids in my class, all through elementary and middle school. Till I got to high school, where obviously APs and things like that started. So I did enjoy that, because like when you have so few people, you get to do a lot more and you get to know them in depth. And I mean, that's always really cool. I love people. And so getting to be so tight knit with like a group of, I don't know, there were maybe 50 of us in my grade broken up into classes. And, I got to really get to know everyone through those years. And that was really cool.
Elizabeth Lanning, smart too. Another check mark. So growing up through the years, was your mom ever your teacher?
Okay, I get that question so much. No. I did attend the same school she taught at for a period of time, which means I didn't have to ride the bus, which I didn't mind. But no, she was never my teacher. She was on the teaching staff at the school though, which was pretty wild. She did, for the most part, I was in elementary school, so she did leave me alone, which I kind of appreciated at that age.
Well, while you were going to the same school, did you make her drop you off like a block away, or did you let her drive you all the way to the faculty parking?
Oh heck no! She drove me to faculty parking. We get there before all the kids because the teachers have to be there first anyway, so it didn't matter too much. And all my friends knew her, so it wasn't a huge deal.
So what'd you do with that time while you were waiting for the other kids to show up to school?
Oh, in elementary school, I was a patrol. I was one of the safety patrols. Oh yeah, I went hard. It was fun.
Go get them. Community oriented from the beginning, and you had that self-deprecating humor to help to fend away the bullying. Did you experience any bullying that you couldn't handle?
Well, back in 5th grade, I actually got bullied really badly. My whole class did, by these two bullies. And we did have to get like counselors involved and stuff, not just for me, but for like a whole group of kids, which was completely crazy. And the school was like trying to brush it off, but my parents and the other kids' parents did not let that happen.
Oh yeah. Whenever my friends and I were messing around, and I grew up in Miami, in a tougher part of town, and we all played outside in the dirt. City. And if any of the kids got into tussles, you'd always threaten, "I'm gonna get my mom," and that was it. That broke up the fight. No, he's getting his mom. We can have rifles and knives and other kinds of weapons, but if he's getting his mom, we're breaking it up. Yes, yeah. Your parents, trust in your parents, kids out there. I'm learning from you, Elizabeth Lanning.
Yeah, we used to ride our bikes a lot. My parents kind of ended up being like, they've always been the neighborhood parents, even after they got divorced, which they did when I was younger. And they lived separately. They were still each their own neighborhood parent. Anybody got hurt, we'd all show up to my parents' house. And we'd be like, we're bruised up and we're scraped. And they'd be like, that's nice. Brush your hands, brush your knees, go play.
All right. Well, did you have any siblings growing up?
Yeah, I have a little sister. She's a senior in high school now. She's a rower. She does crew, and she's very, very talented at that. And I never got the athletic gene. But yeah, so she always can handle herself because she is one heck of an athlete.
Okay, well, brag on for sure. I wondered how you were raising, helping to raise your kid or helping to guide your little sister. But it sounds like she was a toughie. She could take care of herself.
Oh, absolutely. And she's always the one that when I came home with a boyfriend, my parents wouldn't even get to them before my sister would be threatening them, which was always so funny. And she's to this day still my best friend. So, excellent. I couldn't ask for a better relationship with her.
Family's very important. They're probably the ones that are going to back you up more than anybody else. I've heard it so many times. I've said it so many times. Yes, family.
Yeah, family is everything.
Oh, that's fantastic. So cool. Got a good family life. All right. Yeah. Mom and dad split up, but they sounds like they were still in your life. And are they still in your life, guiding you?
Oh, absolutely. Right now, I'm very grateful. My dad is helping me out with college, which sweet. I'm so happy about. And my mom is still the person where if I get sick, she's like, "Do I need to drive down? I'm only 2.5 hours away. Like, I'll drive down right now," which is hecka nice.
That is very nice. Tight family. That's good. So you're out and living on your own now in Virginia.
I am. I have a roommate who happens to be my boyfriend. He's in the Army National Guard. So
all right.
He does that. But when he's gone for the weekends, usually one of my parents, because it's once a month, one of my parents will come down because, I guess in general, they kind of miss me.
It's a good excuse. Okay.
It's a great excuse. They live for it.
They're coming to take care of you. Sure they are. They just miss their baby girl. And you'll always be their baby girl. For sure. All right. Well, I have 2 girls myself, and they'll always be my baby girl.
Oh my gosh. How old are they?
I got a 14 and 23. 23 just made me a grandpa, so I'm kind of excited about that.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. So, all right. So the boyfriend situation's good. You got a good fella, and so that's good. Love is important in life to make sure keep you well rounded. Everything's going good there in that situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't ask for anything better, honestly.
What job's he doing in the Army, National Guard?
So he's a truck driver for them. He drives big rigs and things like that. Which, I mean, National Guard is nice. I think the longest he's ever been away was probably basic training, and that was about 5 months.
Ooh.
So even that wasn't, I mean, too long. I feel for every wife who ends up on deployment, or every spouse who ends up with their significant other on deployment. I commend them because I'm not sure how I'd handle that.
Yeah, 5 months is a long time to be away from a significant other, your love, and I commend you for having that situation. So nursing, all right, you got into nursing. I was a EMT paramedic in the Florida Keys for about 10 years. I enjoyed
it. It's a crazy place to be a paramedic. Oh my gosh.
But one of the jobs that I did was I worked in the with the helicopters. I wasn't on the helicopters, but I was in communication. So the flight medics and the flight nurses, I got to deal with them quite a bit in the hospitals. And just
that's so neat. I love it.
Oh no, working, and my mom's a nurse, so I commend you. Every time she meets somebody that doesn't know what they want to be, oh, you should be a nurse. Yeah, you should be a nurse. So what made you choose nursing as the career of choice?
So I actually started off my freshman year of college. I went to West Virginia University. I was going to be an aerospace engineer. I was dead set on it. I was in robotics in high school. Like, I was ready. And then I got there and I realized that my calling was that I needed to help people.
Yes.
Like, I needed to help people like every day of my life. And I couldn't quite do that in engineering. I could build anything you wanted, but I wasn't in, it's almost more of an isolated job. And I needed to be around people and I needed to be helping others. And I guess after a long talk with just my family and my family friends and things like that, they're like, okay, well, what about pharmacy or nursing? I'm like, oh, pharmacy sounds cool. And then I read up on it. I'm like, okay, maybe I want to be a nurse. And from then on, I just fell in love with everything about it.
Well, that says a lot about you because, yes, engineers do help people. You can't say that they don't. They definitely do.
They do, 100%.
But they're behind the scenes. These are people that are creating the infrastructure for you, for the people, and building things, and everything you own pretty much is from an engineer. But you needed to be around people, and I commend that as well. That's a beautiful thing. And what kind of nursing do you think you want to get into?
So I'm pretty undecided about that, just because I'm really excited to try different kinds and just kind of see how it goes with clinicals and things like that. Right now, I'm definitely leaning towards ER emergency care work.
Yes,
which is fabulous, and it's hard, but I've heard it's very, very rewarding. And if not that, probably NICU, which is for people who don't know, ICU for infants.
Oh, I mean, that'll break your heart. That'll break your heart for sure. But ER, treat them and street them, fix them up, patch people together. And yes, that was look, that's a little behind the scenes for anybody that's listening. That's treat them and street them, get them fixed up and get them out the door or get them upstairs where they need to be. But ER, that's where I spent, let's see, from, what was it, 97 to 2004. Just before I was in the fire department from 89 to 99. And just before.
That's what my grandpa did.
Oh, that's fantastic. When just before I left the fire department, I said, I've been taking people to the hospital, but I don't know quite what they do. So with my days off, I went and I got a job at the hospital in the ER as a tech. And, I would do blood work but I did work with the kids and pediatrics a little bit, but the ER, it's diverse. You can work in the urgent care. You can work, and midnights are the best because the patients are mostly sleeping. So you could fix them up while while they're snoozing for the most part. So, yeah.
I've heard about that. I've heard horror stories and amazing stories about night shift. I have no idea if I want to work it at this point because I've heard people be like, yeah, it was the best experience of my life. And other people are like, you have to be willing to be up like unreasonable hours all the time.
Well, only the night shift works twice a day. Our hospital in particular works from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. So and then people will wake you up throughout the day, but you can't, if you work it right, you can make your schedule to where you're up at the right time. Say you need to do some grocery shopping or you have errands to run during the day. You can set up your sleep schedule according to that. So yes, the night shift at the hospital did it from, I guess what was that, almost 10 years or at least 7 years. But it was great. And there's not too many bosses around. Usually it's one boss. There's no real administrators. It's the nurse manager that you have to deal with. So yes, go to the hospital, be in the ER, fix people up, treat them and treat them. Now, NICU is a certain thing. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person. My mom, when she started, she was in the cancer ward, and she couldn't do that for more than 6 months. It got to be, oh my goodness, you were with the patients until the end of their lives for the most part. I mean, she would see them for months, and they would be on her floor. So every night when she went to work, she would deal with these patients. So yeah, there's a lot of avenues. Really there's a lot of avenues.
You always have to, with things like that, you always have to remember to actually take a little bit of extra care and be extra kind because these are these are the worst days of their lives. And sure. you have to show the compassion that you understand, and things like that. And so I commend her for doing the cancer ward. I don't think it's something I could emotionally handle.
Yeah. I mean, I commend you for going into the nursing field. People get sick. Unfortunately, people will get sick, and you're there to help them feel better in some kind of way. Doctors, they prescribe, but the nurses are the ones that save lives. You're the hands of those doctors. And, they're the ones that have gone to school a little further. They're responsible ultimately, but you're the hands. You are the one that's really taking care of these people. How far into nursing have you done? Are you into clinicals at all, or what?
So I'm not in clinicals yet. I just finished my pre-clinicals up.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And I'm actually looking at different clinical schools. Where I'm at in Virginia, nursing's very, very popular. We're understaffed and the schools are full. So wait lists for a lot of these schools are at 2 to 3 years to get into clinicals. So it is one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, let's see what other schools have for clinicals because the prereqs are pretty much the same no matter where you go. So right now I am trying to find a good place, find a great fit for me, things like that for clinicals.
Oh, I'm sure you'll have guidance counselors that'll help you out in that respect.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Okay. And you say that you've talked to some of the local government, one senator in particular. Is that another avenue that you might want to explore? Maybe get into community organizing and possibly get into office of some kind, or what do you want to do there, Elizabeth?
Well, for the most part, I feel like politics is so heated, especially now, and I feel like the lines are getting very extreme. So I think right now I'd probably want to keep my little nose out of politics. But I feel like veteran homelessness is something anybody can pretty much get behind, that we need to end it. Which is kind of where I feel like I really needed to almost reach out to these senators. I needed to talk to them and find out their opinions, because I've seen online statements where people say 10,000 veterans is basically zero. And I mean, that's 10,000 people. So I completely disagreed with that. And so I had to reach out to the individual people and see personally what they stood for and, things what they want to do, and find out how I can help them in my community to forward what they want to do.
Well, I'm glad you have a good relationship with at least your senators and your congressmen that can help you. Or I guess, is it still congressman or is it congressperson? I don't know.
I don't know. I still say congressman. It might be politically incorrect. I'm not even sure anymore.
I want to be woke.
I'm talking to plenty of female congressmen. So
I can't be woke if I'm talking to a 20 something and and she can't figure it out.
I don't know. I'm growing up in a small town. I'm always a little kind of behind some of the new terminology and things like that. And I try really hard to keep with it. But sometimes it's so hard for me to.
All right.
I mean, I'm 20 and I got a Facebook this year, so I'm a little behind.
Hey, well, congratulations. Welcome to the horrors of social media. A lot of people are just breaking down to Instagram. It's post a picture and go and walk away. And don't get into the drama.
I started doing that about like last year. I'm like, okay, well, I can handle this, because if people get too aggressive, you can always just turn off comments or not read them. That's an option too. Let people say what they will, but you don't always have to acknowledge some of the more rude comments people make.
Oh, you're very wise in your young age. Don't look at the comments. Don't worry about them. If you like it, put it out there. And then just set it and forget it, Oh,
absolutely. Because some people they're just crazy. And you can't always give them the gratification of a response.
And I don't live for the likes. I really don't. I guess maybe I'm 51 years old. I mean, I'm out there because I DJ on the weekends and I get to do a lot of parties. And most of the time it's me just putting out pictures of me and people at parties and having a good time. And that's where, that's what I use my social media for. I don't put pictures of family out there. I protect my kids,
absolutely. I've never posted a picture of my family or anything like that. I really do it to kind of like inspire other people to be like, hey, it's not unreasonable to be 20 years old and go out and help your community. Like it's completely within your limits. You can be a college student and still volunteer. And I just kind of hope to inspire other people to see what I'm doing and maybe spark a passion in them and be like, oh, well, okay, well, I'm really interested in this, and then go chase that.
Well, you did go down another path to help you in your platform of helping the homeless, helping out the veterans, the homeless veterans. You're a beauty queen.
I am.
When did that happen?
It actually was a pretty interesting story. One day I was just sitting on the couch and Toddlers and Tiaras came on, which is the most hilarious show, and completely unrealistic. Nobody's mean like that in the world of pageantry, really. Everyone I've met is just so kind. I've met some of my best friends in it. And that was maybe 6 months ago. I was like, I think I want to do this. So I entered a really, really small pageant where it was made for beginners, and I was able to tie in that one for first place. And then I kind of was like, okay, well, let me try 2 or 3 more. And I did that and I lost. And you do it and lose enough times. Eventually I was like, okay, well, maybe I need somebody who specializes in this. So I was able to meet up with a really great pageant consulting group called Sash. And it's run by a really wonderful lady named Leia. And she kind of was like, okay, well, you're great, but maybe we should practice walking or practice interview. And then with that, the first pageant I competed in with her as my coach, I was first runner-up. And then the second one, I had won. So I was really excited about that.
Now, my friend Leah K. Hatter, full disclosure, yes, I love that kid. She's great. And
she's amazing.
Yes, my goodness. And she's out to help people as well. And I didn't realize that your pageantry was so recent, within the last year.
Yeah, it was super recent. I actually haven't even had enough time or money. I'm a college kid to get my own dresses. I had a donation of a really beautiful dress from a girl who heard that I really didn't have one that fit. And then the rest of them I've been getting from Goodwill, like $5 dresses, and then I'll tailor them myself and make them fit.
What? And she's got skills too. She's a seamstress.
That's something my grandma always taught me to do. She's like, if you can sew it.
What?
So that's basically what I did. The best thing I ever did is I took a size 16 gown and I brought it down to size 2.
That's fantastic.
It was a week. It was a whole week of pretty much doing nothing in my free time but sewing, but I was able to do it. And I've just been competing in those gowns, basically.
It sounds like your grandma's a very amazing lady. That's fantastic. You got those skills. You have family that has been teaching you from a young age, and you've been learning, and you've been community oriented. You did the crossing guard. You said you were involved with what else in school?
I was in robotics.
Robotics. You kind of
Yeah, I was able to
threw
make
that one out there. Robotics. What did you do with robotics in school? Did you do some of those death matches, or was it as exciting as that?
I wish. I honestly thought I was signing up to do something like that. I really did.
I think all the kids do.
We all thought we were signing up for BattleBots. No, you cannot fight the robots to the death. We couldn't put flamethrowers on them. It just was against regulations, but we tried and we checked. But basically, we do pretty simple tasks. We build a robot that would shoot a ball into a hole or a hoop, and sometimes the hoop would move. We'd have an extension of it so it could climb and things like that. It could get over obstacles and complete obstacles, which was really cool. We had a driver for most of it and autonomous for the rest of it. And we were kind of all split into teams. So I got to do some welding, and I was part of the team that actually made the physical bot, like the chassis of the bot.
That is so cool. So absolutely cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And then we didn't really have a safety program, which I mean, they were pretty upset about that. So I was like, oh, hey, well, I'll just make a safety program. So I ended up making a safety program, and then I was the first head of safety to win awards, which was really fun. We won awards for a safety program and things like that, which is really cool.
That is really cool, Elizabeth Lanning. What do you think about that Boston? What is it, Boston Robotics? They have that animal that robot that kind of looks like an animal, and they push it around. They throw it off of buildings, and I mean, do you think it's like cruelty to robots? Do you feel for that robot sometimes?
I can actually, you'd be amazed. I can feel for almost any hunk of metal, just because I've seen our robot somebody screwed up when they were, using the controller and, accidentally threw it off a bench or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, my robot. And I'd like run over to it. So sometimes, yeah, I do feel for the robots, but I mean, if they're sturdy enough, they'll survive almost anything. It's pretty cool.
Empathy. She's got empathy. Love for the fellow man and love for your fellow AI. Do you think they're going to take over the world?
No. No, it's just not feasible because we can teach an AI to learn, but we can't teach it to learn human emotion for the most part. We can teach it how to process it, but not really how to feel it. So, I mean, there are robots now where if you push them really hard, they'll make a sound. That's not them actually feeling pain. It's just like what we taught them to do. So I don't think they're going to be taking over the world anytime soon. And I don't think they're going to be replacing people anytime soon, except for McDonald's. And their robots have got it all right now. The little robot kiosk. Elizabeth
Lanning, you're crushing my dreams. I want to live forever in a giant monkey robot body.
Oh my gosh, that would be cool. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. It's also against like the law, so that's a problem as well.
The laws are made to be broken. That's what this country was founded on. People that pushed in the boundaries and bent the law and made people live forever in giant monkey robot bodies.
Yeah, let me know when they catch up on that. I'm down, but I'm not sure it's anytime soon. But let me know.
I'm sure it's happening in third world countries. They're working on things, possibly in China. There's a lot of science out there that we don't know about.
They're really crazy with some of the technology that they've come up with recently. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, what they've done. Right now, we have a robot that is being tested, and it was kind of designed for the Army, not by the Army, and it'll dodge people. Like it'll shoot. It can shoot a gun, but it won't shoot people, which is really interesting.
It's amazing. And you've had a family that's been in the armed forces, and I know that the armed forces, the military, does push technology. Have you experienced that firsthand, or any stories from your relatives that have been in the various armed forces?
I don't actually get a lot of technology stories or stories in general. Right now, my cousin he's in Hawaii. That's where his base is.
Can I be in that base?
Right. I was like, that was the first place he was assigned. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little jealous of you right now, buddy. But no, I haven't heard anything crazy. I mean, we've got self-driving trucks, and obviously they're being tested and things like that. And of course, once they get perfected, they'll probably become implemented in military and things like that.
All right. Well, Elizabeth Lanning, I mean, I'm kind of veering in different directions, picking your brain, learning things from you, about you. all around you. So how does being a beauty queen, and I'm going to keep saying beauty queen, what is the official title?
You're good. So I'm Miss Virginia USA Ambassador.
Miss Virginia USA Ambassador. What pageant is that? What group is that? Is that,
So
where can you go from there? I know and how is it helping your platform of helping the homeless?
yeah, absolutely. So it's given me a voice, basically. I have maybe 100 followers on social media. I'm not a big social media person, but basically with this, my title is Miss Virginia. The people I'm with are USA Ambassador, and they have a really, really great program, and it's kind of like their motto. It's slick. It's success through leadership, integrity, character, and confidence in today's young women. So it basically gives you a point to start with, and you can take it anywhere you want. This summer, if I can fundraise the money, hopefully, I will be going to nationals where I'll be competing for Miss USA Ambassador.
Wow. That is cool as can be. Have you set up a GoFundMe or any a Patreon, or how can people give to Elizabeth Lanning? And it's not bad if you promote yourself, because I've told you, promote yourself.
Yeah, no, you are good. So yes, I do have a GoFundMe. It's the GoFundMe.com/Miss VAUSAA. So Miss Virginia USA Ambassador.
Excellent. Well, I'll be looking for that, and I'll put that in the show notes and make sure that people have that link. And if they have the means,
yeah, thank you.
I'm
unfortunately not one of the girls who can just write the big check and send it in. I have to fundraise and things like that around the community.
Oh no, and you're helping people in the community. That it's a very noble effort. I mean, this is the small way that I can help, is getting your voice to be a bigger voice.
And I appreciate it.
I'm
really happy that you reached out to want to talk, because I absolutely love it. Like, I've listened to your podcast actually for a minute now. I learned about it through Leah, and they're really fun.
Oh my
goodness!
In general,
they're usually really fun.
This one's really fun. I'm learning about Elizabeth Lanning, 20 years old, already done so much, already been involved with the community. I mean, how often are you getting to the homeless shelters? You're trying to go to school. You're trying to get this nursing degree. It can't be easy to find extra time in the midst of your studies. Where do you find time for Netflix and having fun with the boyfriend and making sure that everything's in balance? How do you do it, girl? How do you do it?
So just like as a general rule in my life, like usually at least 5 days a week, I try to have everything done by 8 p.m. And just like, so I have some time to chill. But then on days that I'm volunteering and things like that, I'll set up my class schedule. So I'm only going to class 3 days a week. All my classes are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that way I have time to do homework in between the classes. And then on the weekends, I can definitely volunteer. Right now, it's been a little hard with the virus going around. It's definitely, a lot of places have been like going to payroll only. Some of the shelters have, and things like that, just as precautions. And
what virus? Tell the people.
Oh, the coronavirus.
What coronavirus?
Oh, the nasty coronavirus that's currently in Virginia, in my area.
The novel COVID-19 coronavirus, which is the way I have to report it whenever I'm doing the What Makes You Smarter podcast and telling people the 10 things they need to know today. You have to use all those syllables. It's the novel COVID-19 coronavirus that is currently scaring the entire world. I find, if you keep yourself healthy, it is detrimental to people that have low immune systems and the elderly and even young children. But I find that people, if you're strong, you keep yourself fit, you work outside in the sun, get a little sunshine, I think you're going to be less susceptible. People are scared out there.
And I've been trying not to go places that are like super, super overpopulated. Like, obviously I went to Walmart because I ran out of paper towels, like a normal person.
Yeah.
But all the crazy people had taken all the paper towels. So I had to go to like 4 different stores to find some paper towels for my house.
Yeah. I was going out for 1 pack and all the packs are gone.
It's like a 3-pack here, people. Why are there 0?
It's an interesting time that we're in. And for those people that are listening, maybe 10, 15, maybe 50 years from now, it's currently March of 2020, and we're dealing with this COVID-19 virus. So if we're not all dead,
all the colleges have shut down,
yeah,
in my state at least.
Yeah, if we're not all dead and you're listening, I appreciate that.
I've done my best not to freak out about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of taking it like it's a flu.
Well, I know that now that America's sweetheart Tom Hanks has it and his wife Rita Wilson, we should have a cure in about a week or so.
You think it'll take that long?
Yeah, can't let him pass. No. That's Tom Hanks, baby.
I know. You think it'll take a whole week? I'm betting a couple days here.
Right. That's good. That's real good, Elizabeth Lanning. All right. So what's on the horizon? What's your next pageant, or what's how can people help the homeless, and what do you want to talk about? What avenues do you want to explore?
Sure. So definitely best ways to help the homeless, especially right now while the novel coronavirus is on the loose, or the novel COVID-19 coronavirus is on the loose. The best thing you can do is honestly take supplies to the shelters. Right now, the shelters are not getting what they need. I mean, you walk into any Walmart, you can see why. They need everything right now. A lot of times they need toilet paper and things like that, and toiletries and feminine hygiene products and things that they can usually get but are out at most places. And then you can always set up donations with schools and things like that. Almost every school, if you go to the admin and you're like, hi, I'd like to set up a donation, a canned goods donation, or even something like that. I mean, schools love to get on board with things like that. In my experience, they're all for it. They're ready to go. So you can always reach out, start canned good donation. You can start at your church and things like that. And then almost every place just needs volunteers to put time in. Volunteering doesn't always mean working in the kitchen either. I feel like a lot of people think that's what it means.
Yeah. What else can you do?
A lot of the shelters, and especially missions, which are usually church-run shelters, for people who have not heard of exactly the difference. A lot of the missions have thrift stores and things like that. If you support their thrift stores, that's where the majority of a lot of the income comes from, especially if they're not state or federally funded. And then on top of that, if you want to volunteer, you can volunteer to work in the thrift stores. And that doesn't mean you have to volunteer for 8 hours. I've worked 2-hour shifts before. I mean, whatever time you have, they will always take it, which is just so wonderful.
Yeah, I always thought helping the homeless meant go serve some soup. And there's more.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that, but there's so many jobs. I mean, sometimes there's even after school care for little children, things like that. So if people who are interested in working with kids, you can go to the homeless shelter and just help these kids with their homework in a space where they have all the resources they need and things like that, with computers, and we've got the pens and the printers and things like that. And it's just giving them some after school care, letting the little ones go outside and play, and let the older ones do homework. And it's a lot you can do.
Yeah, whatever skills you can do, they will take advantage of those skills. I mentioned the Coho before, the City of Hope Outreach here in Conway, Arkansas. And me, I'm a humble DJ. What can I do? Well, they had a carnival to raise money, and I offered my DJ services and my speaker system, so we can hawk out all the various carnival things. So I became a carnival hawker, and I put little dance contests out there and kept the people entertained. So that's a small way that I help the homeless. Yay! So you can do that. Whatever skill you have. If you're a mechanic, you could help fix up things around the place. An engineer.
A lot of places have cars that they'll take homeless to appointments and things like that. Like sometimes even just job interviews or to a doctor center or something like that. Like they need drivers for that even. So if you're like, hey, I don't mind driving a car for a couple hours a day and, getting a coffee in between, like you can do that too. Like there's a lot you can do. It's not just working in the kitchen. Yeah,
those skeptics out there that think, hey, how come the homeless can't get a job? Well, get them a car. Give them a ride. Give them a ride to an employment office. Perhaps they will get a job. How about that? If they have the ability. So there you go. There's place.
Exactly. And I found that a lot of the homeless that are really in need, some of them even have jobs.
Yes.
And that's to me, it's the worst thing to see, is to see somebody who has a job and they're working and they're doing the best they can and they're getting overtime and they still cannot afford a home or a car or things like that.
Oh, I've been a paycheck away from homelessness a lot of times in my life. Many times in my life. My reckless 20s. But if you're in your 20s, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, but you're taking your time to actually help people and build a career for yourself in which you're going to help people even more. I commend you, Elizabeth Lanning. I'm impressed by you. I knew that you were an upstanding citizen of the future, but I can see even more that you're heading in the right direction. Your heart's in the right place.
Thank you so much.
Oh, keep going forward. I commend your parents for raising a good kid. You're a good kid.
I try. My parents are sometimes even my parents question me, but I always try.
Oh, kids always push boundaries. Probably
it's
from as a teenager, you were probably pushing out your boundaries. But now that you're grown, and you probably love your parents even more so. It's a cycle.
Oh yeah, and I love them for all the times that they got me in trouble in high school, honestly, because I learned from it. I learned that, hey, if you have somewhere to be by a certain time, be there. Don't show up late for curfew. Don't do things like that. Just be there.
You can count on Elizabeth Lanning. If she says she's going to be there, she's going to be there. And so, when's the next pageant? Or is it already scheduled, or when's the next thing on the horizon?
Yeah, so the next pageant. So while I'm in USA Ambassador, I do not think I could handle any other titles right now. Just because it's a lot of work, especially with all of what I'm trying to do, and I try to be in parades and things like that on top of it to just kind of hype out USA Ambassador because they're great. And so my next pageant is basically at the end of July. It's a week. It's like July 29th to August 5th, I think, 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a full week. And then after that, I'll either win and then I got the higher title for the whole year, or I will, I'll stay USA Ambassador Miss Virginia, and I'll just finish out the rest of the year as that. I've only had this title for about a month now. Amazing. So I still have 11 more months to go, and I promise it's not the last anyone's heard of me.
I believe that to be true. All right. Let the people know how to, you're not much on social media, but let the people know how to get a hold of you if they want to donate or give, or if they want to get in contact with you and find out how they can be an Elizabeth Lanning.
So my Instagram is Miss VA _USA Ambassador. And then I also have one that's kind of just dedicated to the community service I do, which is serving those who serve. And that's my platform, and that's the name of the Instagram. And right now I'm currently doing a cool little thing. So I'm trying to get all 50 states to donate something to their local homeless shelters. I'm filling in a map at the end of this week that's just kind of showing what states we have represented here. And people can just message me saying, hey, I donated 35 jars of peanut butter in South Dakota. And then South Dakota is marked off. So I'm trying to see if we can get every single state represented out here on this amazing map I'm going to be putting up. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited for the people, the homeless people in particular. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's something you can do at any time, especially right now where I can't necessarily go in and serve in the capacity that I want to, because I work at I volunteer at about 4 different shelters around Virginia. So I volunteer a lot, and sometimes one's in Roanoke, which is about an hour and a half from me. I can't get there right now. It's not feasible with the traffic and the area and everything. So I'm just trying to make sure that all the shelters get what they need no matter where they are.
Tell me you're dragging your fellow around with you.
Sometimes. I do sometimes drag him around with me. Definitely, because every shelter on the inside is just a wonderful place to be.
Right.
But sometimes they're not on the best sides of town, and it can be a little daunting, but it shouldn't be. I know the first time I go to a shelter, I usually bring the fella, just to make sure that I don't end up in an unsafe situation. But usually after the first time, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. This is fine. We're good here.
No, that's just wise. That's just very wise. Well,
yeah,
all right.
You have to always be safe about it. never go alone to an area you've never been before, into a shelter you've never been, because you don't exactly know what it's set up on the inside either.
You're very smart.
I've had times where it's taken me half an hour to find the reception desk. So.
Well, all right. I think I've taken about an hour of your time. We've gone through a lot of different things. My goodness, you are extending your arms out to the community and giving them a big old hug, even though we're supposed to be socially distancing ourselves at this particular moment in time. You know, last Friday, I do my regular gig at a club in Conway, Arkansas, the Rab, and I DJ over there, and I said, thank you all for coming out at this trying time. And I'm offering free hugs. And they lined up and they gave me hugs.
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, my goodness. People are worried, should we be distancing ourselves? It's a troubling time when the media is telling you one thing and then you're realizing, maybe it's just a really bad flu. Is it that big? Is it that much?
I know, and sometimes I know there's a lot of country music artists right now that are doing like live stream concerts and things like that. They're like, don't come out of your home. Like, feel free to lock down, but let's just dress for half an hour or whatever and let's play some songs and stuff and live stream it, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I think I saw Keith Urban doing that. Nicole Kidman was hanging out in the wings, I just saw that recently. So that was pretty cool. But
yeah, and then I know Luke Combs did it tonight for a bit, which was awesome too. I love Luke Combs.
How cool is that?
The boy loves Luke Combs a lot. Oh my gosh! So
I can dig it. I can dig
in the
house. All right. So when you play your music, do you play it loud?
Oh yeah.
Do the neighbors?
Unless it's quiet hours in my apartment because there's a baby that lives a floor below us. Then I keep it quiet. But like other than that, the music's pretty loud.
All right. Well, that means whatever Elizabeth Lanning's listening to, neighbors, that's what you're listening to as well.
Exactly.
Well, I usually finish these things off with your last words for the people. It could be something that you live by, words of wisdom, an idea that just pops in your head right now. It's Elizabeth Lanning. Last words for the people.
So I think what I just kind of want everyone to kind of vibe with is that always be kind. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You don't know what the people around you are also going through. And if you just spread kindness, it is infectious. And if you are kind, the person next to you will be. And it will spread farther than you think. And it'll touch more people's lives than you know. Always be kind and be generous. And remember, like, even if you have it tough, there is somebody who has less out there. And you always have to remember them and remember to show them the kind of love that you want to be shown.
Well, there you have it, party people. Elizabeth Lanning, a woman of the future, 20 years old and already got her head on straight. What was I doing when I was 20 years old? I definitely wasn't becoming a nurse and taking care of the community and helping the homeless. I was doing a little bit of community service back then, and I hope that you do too. I hope that the kids, when they grow up, they learn about the community. I guess you know what? Now that I think about it, when I was 20, I was firefighting. I was, working as I guess I was community oriented. And then, we'd have our boot drives and collect money for the homeless as well. So, yeah, okay. I guess I did some good stuff for them. But she's really pouring it on, volunteering. She makes time on her schedule to volunteer for the homeless. And in particular, she specializes in the homeless veterans, when they come back from whatever they've seen overseas, trying to help the people and make sure that our freedoms are secured, and doing the job that maybe not a lot of people want to do, and they come back and maybe they don't have anything when they get back here. They had a steady paycheck. They had 3 hots and a cot while they were in the armed forces, in the service. But then they get they get out for whatever reason, and now what? Well, thank you, Elizabeth Lanning, for helping to steer those people in the right direction. Your volunteering, I'm sure, helps, and you've had a lot of good feedback with that volunteering. And now you're becoming a nurse. You're well on your way to helping more people. And please consider ER. That's the spot. That's the spot. ER in the middle of the night. Treat them and street them, and they'll be sleepy, so you could, take their IVs and their blood pressures and, make sure that they got their medicine. You wake them up. Wake up, Mr. Smith. Wake up. Time to take a pill. Okay, you can go back to sleep. And they feel so much better because you took care of them. How about that? But whatever kind of nurse you're going to be, I expect you're going to be the best at it. Yeah, I mean, you excelled in school. I mean, that says a lot about you. Crossing guard. People make fun of crossing guards. I know in the movies, you're like, oh, crossing guard. Yeah. But you held off that bullying with the self-deprecating humor. So good job, Elizabeth Lanning. Thank you so much for being on the program. What makes you famous? And on top of all that, she's a beauty queen. How about that? Yeah. All right. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. If you'd like to tell your story, yes, you. I'm talking about you. If you want to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.
If you like what you hear, follow What Makes You Famous social media. Use the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Follow on Facebook at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Instagram at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Twitter at Makes Famous. And follow on YouTube at Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Famous podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Famous podcast on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and almost anywhere you find podcasts. Tell your story on my podcast, What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time. You can support What Makes You Famous using the PayPal link, paypal.me/KeysDan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Famous podcast is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.
Radio What? The music you want. With some words to live by.
Always choose life.
A public service message from radiowhat.com. The music you want. Tweet, yo. Follow Radio What on Twitter at Radio What Twit. Tweet, yo.